Okay, Mark, here she is. This is a little instructional video I'm putting together for you so you can get to know your car. Just a few things, little do's and don'ts. I'm going to point out some stuff to you. Body and paint are in very nice shape on this car. It's going to be a very nice driver. You won't be worried about taking it to a parking lot and parking it and walking away. Of course, you'll be talking to a lot of people in a parking lot because everywhere you go, they'll want to talk to you about your car, so make sure you got plenty of time to speak with them about your car. Wheels came out pretty clean. In order to get them cleaner, we'd have to take them off and send them out to a polisher. I think you'll be happy with them. They look pretty nice. Right here is a good area to see all the new power steering hoses and the bellows for the assistment. All nice new clean paint and undercoated. Here's a real good body Schultz. Cleans up and seals everything on the bottom of the car that, ends up being a little dirty or exposed. Here's your new exhaust system. The rear end was all repainted, of course. Yeah, that's a little bit better of a shot. Can give you an idea of what it looks like underneath here a little bit better. I apologize if the video isn't so good. This is usually the best way to shoot a video on a car. Here's the frame rails. Very nice shape underneath here. This is a very clean shell. We picked out a real good clean shell. Yeah, there were no signs of any collision underneath here or metal replacement whatsoever. And of course, we got a couple nicks and chips here from the tire being kicked up. They're in the lower skirt, though. You really don't see those unless you get down low. Nice frame rails underneath here. Most of the time I have to do a lot of repair to these frame rails because guys use a floor jack and they jack the car up from underneath here and they crush these. So by all means, do not jack this car up by these frame rails on the side. If you chose to jack this car up, you can see that black singular bar just behind the deep part of the oil pan. That's where I'll sneak a floor jack in and jack the car up from the front. All nice and clean and sealed up. And of course you can see the newer suspension components that were replaced by one of the more previous owners. It's all good and tight. I did a four-wheel thrust angle alignment, set the suspension, adjusted the sector shaft. Brakes are like brand new. All the lines, hoses, master cylinder, brake booster are in good working condition. She's real nice and tight and clean underneath here. Not a drop of fluid. So let's go up top. Now, just since I'm right here, these right here are the Lucas fog lights or driving lights. If you want to use them, there's a switch inside. I'll show you where that switch is. But you got to remember, you got to remove these covers. And they just basically slide off, okay? So if you turn the switch on with the covers on, you're going to melt these covers, so make sure you remove these covers. You may or may not even need to use them, but it's kind of a novelty thing. I'm going to show you how to properly open this hood. There's a lot of guys that make a mistake and don't open these hoods properly, and they damage them. This fiberglass area is very thin right here. There's two small hairline cracks right here. It's very typical on a Shelby hood, and it's because guys try to open and lift the hood from here. It's very thin and it breaks. You can repair this, but they always come back. So the best way to open this hood is first unscrew your hood spin downs. Sometimes they do tend to stick a little bit, so I kind of just help lift them up a little bit. And if you take your hand and go under the valance here, there's the hood latch, the main latch, and I just push it all the way up, okay, like that, and then reach in here and then open the hood. That way you stay away from that nose area all the way. Here's the inside of the hood, and I'm glad we painted it because it looks so much better. There was some splatter and things that I just couldn't get off the hood by trying to clean it, so it just made better sense to repaint it. Of course, here's all your air conditioning lines and hoses. I ended up going with an aftermarket battery with the auto light top. And the reason is because the concourse battery that I typically buy, the manufacturer does not make them anymore. They're looking for a new vendor to make that battery again, so I went with the next best thing. You may or may not see all the detail just because of the lighting here. I'll try to do the best I can to show you what things look like. Here's our little Shelby tag. Everything's all hooked up and correct. All new belts, hoses, clamps, radiator, water pump, tune-up, plug wires, cap and rotor, plugs. Didn't do anything to that carburetor though other than clean it. And like I told you, when you get it down there, find somebody that has an infrared that can read the exhaust emissions coming out. See if that thing needs to be dialed in a little bit. They might need to go in and rejet it, or they might just need to make external adjustments, but very crucial to do that. Okay, why don't I fire her up for you? Now when she's cold, you want to give her just a couple little squirts of fuel and hit the key and it'll start right up. I've had it running and driving already, so it's warmed up. So what I do is I put the gas pedal down about a quarter of the way and just crank the key and she'll start up. She runs great. I just got back from a nice long ride on the highway. Check everything out and shake it down. Didn't have to make any adjustments, no leaks, no noises. Everything ran real good through all the gears.
Now I'm going to show you how to close the hood. Nothing too complicated. Just reach up, bring it down till it's about right here. I place my hand right here and just give it a good firm close. Simple. And then come and take your spin downs. You have to line them up a little bit. And then rotate that down. Actually, we're going to open up the hood again in another minute here because I'm going to show you just where all the basics are. So let's go over here to our interior. Pretty self-explanatory with the ignition switch. Here is where you turn the air conditioning on. So if you put everything up, put your air line all the way up, and then here's your fan switch. Bring it down. You get air conditioning out of here, and then the two vents in the center, and then the one on the other side. Now keep in mind, this is 40, 50-year-old air conditioning technology, only works so good. So I don't know how well it worked for you down in Florida there, but give it a try. It blows cold here. Of course, your fuel gauge, top left, speedometer, tachometer, your temperature gauge. It's going to run a little bit more towards the middle on a hotter day, okay? And here is your oil pressure and your amp gauge showing the battery voltage. This little button right here below your ignition switch is for your fog lamps. And again, remember, make sure that you take those covers off before you turn the fog lamps on. Here's your horn right here. Headlight switch is right here, pretty easy to see. This is your emergency brake. You pull that straight out, and then when you want to release it, you got to rotate it down and then it goes in. Shifter's pretty self-explanatory, automatic. Let's show you the rest of the interior. Headliner's in very nice shape. Seats are in really good condition. These shoulder strap harnesses are more of a novelty thing. I seriously doubt you'll drive down the road and put those on. Most people just use the traditional lap belt. Just kind of a novelty thing that they put in these cars back in the day. So let me show you inside the trunk here. And while I'm taking you back to the back part of the car, here is where you fill the fuel. And what I do is I just gingerly open these and set it down. It rests pretty close to on the bumper. And then that way you don't scratch that up over a period of time. Then just push it back in and it clicks. And when you open the trunk, make sure you got one hand on the trunk because that spring will take the trunk and just throw it up. It's got a good tension on the springs. Basic trunk. Got a new floor mat in here. I put new light covers in here. Here's your new car cover. There's a new jack and handle. Here's a spare tire underneath here for you. It's nothing spectacular, just a steel wheel and a generic metric tire. Just in the event that you get a flat, which I don't know if you will, but it's just good to have that stuff. I close the trunk lid just kind of the same way. Just bring it down, give it a good little close there. Just come over to the passenger side and take a look in there. Here's your new sill plates. They look nice and new. I put new door bumpers and the door jambs here, if you can see those. They're a little stiff right now, so when you do close the door, if you close it like that, it won't be quite enough. Give it a good little close. I also left your antenna loose and down for transport. It's got a little rubber grommet here, so it's not going to scratch the paint. It's just that it's going to be in an enclosed trailer, and it's easier if that antenna is down. So when you get it, you can pull it up and just gently thread that back on and then just tighten that down. Let's go back under the hood here real quick again. I want to just show you a couple simple things. Nothing complicated, but nevertheless important. Sometimes these stick a little bit and you got to help them out. Obviously right there is where you check your antifreeze. You're not going to check it when it's hot. Open that up and check it when it's cold, and it's probably going to want to be about an inch down from that neck. The engine oil dipstick is a little tricky to get to. I don't know how well you can see this, but I've got my hand on it right here. Basically pull it out, wipe it off, stick it back in, check your level. Your power steering dipstick is right here as well. You can check that hot or cold. If you check it hot, it's going to read a little higher. Cold, it's going to read a little lower. Coming all the way over here to the passenger side, tucked all the way in the back, a little tricky to get to again, is your automatic transmission dipstick. Check that when the motor's been warmed up. The fluid swells and it raises, so you don't want to overfill that or you'll end up having a leak on the ground. What I always do after a car's been done driving for the day or whatever, and you're parking it back at the house, just disconnect the battery terminal. That does two things. It saves the charge in the battery, and if there is some slight drain on the system, it won't drain the battery. I would suggest also getting a trickle charger and putting a trickle charger on that from time to time. But when you're not using the car, just disconnect the battery. Well, past that, I think that's all the basics there. Oh, two more things I didn't show you. Pretty simple, you'd figure them out anyways. This lever right up in here is your windshield wipers. They're slow and fast. Also down on the ground here, and how well you can see it, there's your high beam switch on the floor. This little pedal here also activates your windshield wipers, and it also gives a squirt of windshield washing fluid. So that's how they did things back in the old days. So here she is, all done and ready to go. I checked out the wipers, turn signals, brake lights, fog lights, park lights. The heater works, air conditioning works, the interior lights work. It's totally roadworthy. I had it out on the highway, put it through its paces, took it up to 85 miles an hour. Runs great. And when you drive this, you know, the steering isn't quite as tight as today's steering, but I can guarantee and assure you that everything underneath there is in very good tip-top condition as far as all the steering components. So you'll see that it feels a little different than today's cars. But past that, she's all ready to go. So, you know, watch this as many times as you need to. Give me a call if you got some questions. I'll be more than happy to answer anything for you. And be safe and have some fun. We'll talk to you soon.